Hello and Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hasnain Mankani and I'm a third year medical student at the Aga Khan University. Today I'll be talking about whether it's worth reapplying to AKU if you have joined a different medical school or if you've taken a gap year. A lot of you might not know, but I actually did not clear the AQ test in my first attempt. And hence I went to Dow Medical College in Karachi for a year before reapplying and then getting in. In this video, I'm going to be covering the different aspects one should be thinking about when reapplying to AKU, and then you can decide for yourself at the end whether you think it's worth it or not. So starting off with academics. So medical schools in Pakistan are essentially divided into two sections. You have your 2 years of basic sciences where you study the anatomy, the biochemistry, the physiology of the human body. And then the next 3 years, you go to clinical rotations and you rotate with different consultants and you learn patient interaction, how to take history, how to do examinations, and much more. So having spent 2 years in AKU, I would say that the medical education in the first two basic sciences years are quite similar across the different medical schools in Pakistan. Usually you will have lectures, you will have discussion groups, and you will also have, for example, different cases to discuss every other week where they teach you in different modules about, let's say, for example, the respiratory system or the cardiovascular system or the brain, the neurology system. Apart from that, a lot of people raise this issue that the USMLE content in AQ is more rampant compared to different medical colleges where they'll teach you according to the US guidelines, they'll teach you regarding how to, for example, match and all. But I would say that now the trend has started that people have actually started attending less lectures and they're now using online resources. So for example, let's say Boards and Beyond, Pathoma, you'll get to know about all these videos when you actually join medical school. So all these resources are available to everyone. So people in AQ will be using them, but people also in different medical colleges will be using them. So essentially everyone is now studying the same material. So you aren't at a disadvantage when it comes to, for example, the learning resources. As far as exams are concerned, again, yes, maybe a bit of the AQ question style is oriented towards the USMLE, but then you can actually practice these questions on websites like Amboss, Osmosis, which are now available for free as well. So you'll essentially be training for the USMLE alongside studying for medical school, regardless of where you're studying. Now, when it comes to patient interaction and the 3 clinical years, now I just started my rotations and I can give you a guarantee that that is actually quite different compared to AQ and other different medical colleges. So for example, now when I'm rotating with a consultant, I get to interact with him or her on a daily basis, and it's usually a group of only 4 students interacting per consultant. So I get to a lot of time hands-on with the patient, with the doctor, and that's not how it is in different medical colleges other than AKU. Jahan pe, for example, you will have 15-20 kids assigned to one consultant. There'll be a very massive patient overload. So the kids won't be getting a chance to ask questions. They won't be getting a chance to do examinations. And essentially their learning will be burdened. In AKU, apart from that, again, there are different teaching sessions that happen literally every other week, which we thoroughly enjoy because now it's actually like, patients on the other side. It's not books that you have to memorize or different facts you have to memorize. So there'll be consultants with for example, US MD degrees who have for example, done 3-4 fellowships, and then they'll come and teach us different stuff. Just this week, for example, a doctor came and she taught us glaucoma. Now, the way she taught me the entire pathophysiology of glaucoma, I just cannot forget it. So essentially that's what you might be missing out if you go to a different medical college. But then again, if you put the initiative, if you make the active effort, then every resident, every consultant, every attending, regardless of where they are, they would love to teach you. So then in AQ, it's sort of forced upon you, while in other medical colleges, you have to make the active effort yourself. Now, talking about research. Now, everyone knows that when you're applying to the US or to the UK, essentially for the match, then you have to have done a significant amount of research so that your chances of matching are significantly increased. Now, a lot of people will raise these facts that, AQ may, there's a lot of research going on. There's specific consultants, faculty that are thoroughly focused on doing research. For example, we have a community health sciences faculty, entire building actually, where there's just research happening. And for example, when the COVID pandemic came, they were at the forefront forefront of conducting trials. They were looking into what vaccine is causing what side effects, and different other pandemics as well in Pakistan. So essentially that is true. Yes, a lot of research that is being churned out in Pakistan actually comes from AQ. But then I feel now other medical colleges in Pakistan have also raised their game. So now while maybe let's say AQ has a student research forum where literally we have research workshops going on every other week, but then I feel other medical colleges also have started doing something similar. And again, about research, it's all about how much of an effort you make. I know friends in my batch who, for example, have spent around 2.5 years in medical school so far, and they've hardly published anything. And I know people who, for example, are, let's say in Dow, my old friends, they actually have published a lot. So it's all about how much active effort you put in, how much you reach out to faculty, to consultants. And again, being a student, for example, let's say in a medical college in Punjab, you can also just email someone in AQ and they will actually be interested, because in research there are two types of research. You might be doing maybe hands-on basic sciences research. For that, yes, you might need to be in AQ, but then let's say if you're doing some other research like a meta-analysis, you can just do it while, for example, being in a medical school halfway across Pakistan, and that's completely okay as well. One thing I would like to mention, however, is that being in AQU, it's sort of a bit hectic doing research, because usually the curriculum is quite tough. So you, for example, will have class at 8:30 a.m. in the morning, and that will drag on to let's say 3:30, 4:30 or 5 maximum. While someone, let's say a government medical college, they usually get done at let's say 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. maximum. So then they'll go home and they'll have the entire day to study, for example, or they'll have the entire day to do research. So in that aspect, yes, you need to balance your time really, really well in AQ when it comes to doing research, if you want to have a good grip on research in the first 2 years. Yes, AQ does conduct a lot of workshops that a lot of people also attend online, virtually, or maybe in person from different medical colleges in Karachi. But then again, I feel that for that, you can also attend such workshops online, or you can just open up YouTube and learn all of those stuff from there only. So one thing a lot of people love mentioning is the campus life at AQ, which I completely agree is absolutely amazing. Especially if you're a hostelite, you get access to an amazing gymnasium, a gym, tennis courts, volleyball courts, nets for cricket, and an amazing pool. Other than that, we also have a library that's actually open 24/7. So yes, in that regard, AQ does top the list. But then one thing I would like to mention is that it totally depends on the person whether they actually take use of these resources or not. So for example, I have friends in my batch who have hardly stepped out of their dorm room other than going for lectures, and there are other people in my batch who've used these facilities to the maximum. So that depends on you. Other than that, yes, AQ has a lot of societies. So let's say we have Synergy, where we have seniors being paired up with, for example, juniors, and then they go out, explore Karachi. They'll teach them, how to, for example, go about their basic sciences and their clinical rotations. And yes, this might be a lacking in other medical colleges in Pakistan. But then one thing I again feel is that it all depends on the person. If you are social, if you like to interact with seniors, you can actually approach your seniors in any medical college. And if you approach the right ones, they'll actually guide you, they'll hold your hand, and they'll help you throughout medical school. So yes, while AQ sort of has that environment that is conducive to, for example, more interactions, more, for example, going out, more, for example, using the facilities, if you are in a different medical college, you aren't really missing out, because if you take advantage of, for example, reaching out to your seniors and building contacts, you can have the same experience in medical school that one has in AKU. So now, talking about the fee structure. So yes, AQ is very famous for charging an exorbitant amount of fees. मेरे जो साल की fees is around 25.5 lakhs, and every year it is increasing. But one thing I would like to mention is that a lot of people in, for example, my batch and even the junior batches are actually studying on aid or a loan or a grant. So essentially, if you cannot afford it, AQ does help you out. But then if you are especially reapplying to AQ, you have to keep that in your head that let's say if things don't work out, let's say your financial assistance form is rejected, then you should be prepared, and it shouldn't, for example, become a very big burden for your family. Iske alawa, I would also like to mention that let's say you are leaving a government medical institution, especially in Sindh. So we actually have a policy that if you leave in the mid of your studies, so for example, you started first year and then you leave for AKU, you actually have to pay this sort of penalty for leaving your seat vacant. So for example, when I left Dow Medical College, I had to pay 3 lakh rupees for my merit seat. And if you, for example, are on a self-finance seat, you have to pay 5 lakh rupees. And for this, you won't get any assistance, you won't get any loan or grant. So then this is something your family has to afford. So essentially, you'll have to talk to your parents and have this discussion with them that if, for example, I am reapplying to AQ, you might have to pay that specific amount to your previous medical college. At the same time, AQ की fees अगर for example financial assistance नहीं मिलती है, there's no cutthroat thing that, for example, let's say if you are reapplying, you have to pay the entire fees. You can still apply for their financial assistance, and if you really deserve it, they will give it to you. But then yes, if you don't get it, you have to make sure that your family can afford that. AQ does have, for example, different loan setups that you can talk to them about giving to you. But then again, this is something you have to talk to your parents before actually reapplying to AQ. Now, talking about patient exposure. So essentially, when I did not get in the first time, I talked to a lot of people whether I should reapply or not. And a lot of people who were outsiders, who had not gone to medical school, they all told me this one thing, that DAO में होने का फ़ायदा ये है, essentially since you are in a medical school that is affiliated with a government hospital, you'll actually get a lot of patient exposure. So in that sense, they told me that, for example, you can go for like patient examinations literally every single day. You can give injections and no one's going to stop you. Now that might be true because there's not a lot of supervision in government hospitals. But then when I just joined AQ and I just started my third year, I realized this one thing, that actually in AQ also you do get a lot of patient exposure. You get to do examinations, you get to put in injections, but under supervision at all times. And that is super duper important. I'll tell you why. So for example, let's say you're giving injections by the amount of 10 every single day in, like, for example, let's say civil hospital, but you're not learning the right technique. So you will essentially be learning the wrong technique every single day. In AQ, you might just get a chance to give like 1 injection per day. But then if there's a consultant, if there's a resident who actually monitors how you're giving it, then you learn that technique. And essentially आप 1 दिन या 10 दिन अगर आपने technique सीख लिया, that's all that is important. So yes, while you do get to take more histories maybe in civil hospital, but just the fact that people coming to AQ, the patients actually, they know that AQ is a teaching hospital, so they are actually very open to giving histories to medical students as well. And then if there's a consultant, if there's a resident teaching you, you get to learn the skill in the actual proper way, how the guidelines actually dictate. So then essentially you're getting a better patient exposure when it comes to AQ compared to a different medical college. It all depends, for example, on your initiative. If you actually reach to the consultant in a government medical college, you ask them for help, they will help you. But then again, in government medical colleges, you will be the one making the active effort. In AQ, the consultant themselves will just give you a file and say, iski history lekar aao. So you will have to learn that skill one way or the other. Now, one factor a lot of people consider when reapplying to AQ is the fact that we see a lot of AQ seniors matching into top residencies in the US or the UK, and they feel that if they are in a different medical college in Pakistan, they won't get those same opportunities. Now, I will not deny this, that yes, being an AQ student, I get to make a lot of contacts. We have a lot of sessions going on literally every other week, so we can talk to faculty in the US, MD trained physicians, and we can ask them for research, for example. We can ask them for help with our CVs, and that does play a factor. But then I feel other medical colleges also are now actively working towards developing an alumni network. They are now, for example, holding more sessions. And again, I feel that being in AQ, it sometimes gets a very tough environment as well, because there's 100 students who are actively looking for faculty. Being in a government medical college where, for example, you're the 15 students out of 300 who are actually wishing to apply to the US, you get more chances to reach out to faculty from your own, for example, medical school or even other medical schools. And honestly, faculty do not look at university names and then decide to help. They will just, for example, look at your efforts made. They will look at your CV, for example. They will look at what stuff you've done in the past, and if you've done a good job, regardless of whichever medical university you're coming from, they will help you out. And then it all depends on your, for example, mehnat, your, for example, active effort, whether they actually continue working with you, or whether they say, sorry, we cannot help you out in the future. So that depends on the person as well. And again, I've seen people in my, for example, batch who have no idea about what their future is. They don't know whether they want to go to the US or the UK, or they want to stay in Pakistan. And that's where I feel, for example, someone in some other medical school can also take advantage and actually match very easily, just like AQ students. Being a Karachiite, I had actually never thought about this, but then when I talked to my friends who are hostelites in AQ, they actually told me this one concern that they had when applying to AQ that I had never thought about. So essentially for me, I had seen AQ multiple times before applying. So I knew about the hospital, I knew about, where in the city it is. But then for someone who's a hostelite who's coming to Karachi for the first time, that's a very difficult step. And I completely understand that because, we've seen the news about Karachi, what's happening, what's going on every other day. This is something that everyone should know, especially if you're not living in Karachi, that you get to decide how much you want to go outside in Karachi when you come to AQ. So AQ essentially is a very secure place. There are guards literally at every other door. And then even, for example, let's say if we have to make like a batch trip, or for example, let's say we go to like a Kachi Abadi for some health checkups, there's always guards accompanying us. So essentially AQ does provide the security. Then it's up to you how much you want to go outside and explore the city. But then essentially security wise, it's the completely wise choice to come to Karachi. Literally everything is available here. And then again, AQ, as I mentioned, has the synergy group where, for example, there are seniors helping out the juniors settle into the hostels. That's also a very tough experience for a lot of people. They help them, throughout, for example, how to do laundry, how to, for example, maintain, where to get clothes from for your like clinical rotation. So everything is covered by your seniors and the AQ facility. So essentially it's completely safe coming to Karachi, I would say, while the conditions in the city might get a bit disturbed often while, but essentially being in AQ, you're always safe. There's always guards everywhere and you're at a very secure place. So coming to the end of this video, a lot of you might be expecting my opinion on whether it was worth reapplying to AQ or not. But essentially, I feel that it totally depends on you, what sort of person you are, and whether you'll be able to use the AQ resources to the maximum capability or not. If you feel that yes, the stuff that I've mentioned, it really resonates with you, then go ahead, reapply to AQ. But then if you feel that you're actually quite satisfied with your medical school and you're applying to AQ just because of some pressure from parents, for example, or for example, let's say like, because AQ was your dream and it didn't work out, then you should actually reconsider and think about this again. One last thing I would like to say is that yes, AQ is an amazing place. The bonds, the friendships I've made over the last 2.5 years are absolutely splendid. But then I cannot say the same thing for Dow because I didn't spend a lot of time over there. I only, for example, spent 4 months over there because then COVID struck and I had to like sit at home. So maybe over there also I would have made great friendships. I would have, for example, done maybe more research, but I can never say for sure. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, do make sure to give it a thumbs up. Do subscribe to our channel for more videos like these, and do share this video with your friends who might be confused whether they should reapply to AQ or not. Thank you. Bye-bye.